Hello and welcome to our podcast. My name is Natasha.
And my name's Lauren.
Join us as we discuss all things Neighbours.
And it's unfinished business.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode. We really appreciate you being here.
So for this episode, we were going to be discussing the latest events in Erinsborough over the past fortnight, and we'll be giving you a rundown of our top 5 dramas over the last 10 years.
We will be here all day. There's a drama every week.
No, literally like every week, but these are drama specials, you know, but they feel like on an offset like location. So special.
Okay, well, I guess we better get started then.
Mhm.
So what's your take on the latest episodes then?
Well, you know, as per usual, I have my notes.
I go off your notes, to be honest.
You do. You feed off of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Basically, so I'm not going to talk about the whole Nicolette Veronica like situation. I'm going to leave that till a little bit later.
Yeah, but yeah,
there's a reason why. But first I want to talk about, obviously, so we see at the start, I think where we've left off is Krista and Leo obviously have now become an item after she overhears him saying that, you know, he doesn't trust her with sort of Abigail, and then obviously it goes into a bit more depth with it as to, you know, why he doesn't trust or easily trust people, because obviously he's protecting Abigail after whole Brittany saga and stuff like that. You know, she was you know, was she taking drugs, or she was now quote taking drugs or something, and he was helping her, and then that whole debacle, which obviously Paul has picked up on, has tried to kind of like play on that a little bit with like their emotions and make it seem like their connection's not like, you know, a genuine connection. And then obviously in recent episodes, the last one, we've seen him be like, oh no, it's fine, you can be together, because he's pretty scared of losing somebody else in his life, isn't he? So yeah, what are your takes on it?
To be honest, I like them together. I think I've seen a sweeter side to Leo. Like, I don't think we've really seen this side. He's kind of been like the playboy. We might have seen it when he was dating Therese, but again, that was a dodgy situation because of Paul. So yeah, I think this one's like, it seems very wholesome. And at the end of the day, Leo's stubborn and he'll do what he wants to do. So David, rightly, as much as he doesn't like it, he doesn't agree with it necessarily. He realizes that, well, you keep pushing and you will push him away. So yeah, I'm liking that storyline. Although she keeps referring to, oh, my clothes aren't fitting. Well, you need to stop wearing such tight clothing, love.
She doesn't really dress like.
So yeah, but maybe her tummy will come along soon.
Yeah, well, she's suddenly going to pop, isn't she? Like everybody does, you know. Suddenly they're pregnant. Like, yeah, I know. But do you think though that Paul is right in the fact that Leo's like feeling some sort of guilt towards his relationship that he had with Brittany, and that he's like saving Krista in some way, and that
I
further
mean,
down the line
we're
it's
talking
probably.
about 2 years ago. I mean, maybe, but I think like, you know, Leo, we hardly had him for a good few months in showing up in the episodes. He very much was a background character, and now he's got a story arc, and I just feel like, you know, he's someone that actually does deserve a bit of happiness. I feel like, you know, it's always David is the golden boy. You know, he was the doctor, he's married to Aaron, they have a kid, and, you know, Leo just kind of is a bit of the rebel and does things a little bit differently. But, you know, and Paul saying, you know, oh, that he's, you know, he could do so much better, and, you know, I mean, maybe, but at the end of the day, like, if he's making her happy, and also
Yeah,
if she's feeling stable in his presence and feels safe in Leo's presence, then why not? Just
yeah,
stop, mind your own business.
yeah. Um, so let's go to like Mel.
Mm,
So, you know, last episode we were saying, you know, she's starting to kind of
yeah,
become herself again.
yeah,
And then she goes on this date,
yeah.
which then doesn't become a date. It turns out she's been catfished. And some young youths have obviously found her profile on a dating website and then obviously taunting her and throwing some sort of like
Yeah.
drink over her or whatever. So she's not having much luck. Um, Again, like it doesn't seem to end with her. There's always some sort of like drama.
I mean, I I was like, really? Would some boys really do that? I don't know. I was just a bit like question mark over that. But the way I see it is, and we've seen the latest episode, which old D'Amato, who's now
Oh
a
my God. Literally,
he's basically played what, four different characters in
I
Neighbours.
was sat there and I was like,
Yeah,
literally, my mum was sat next to me and I was like, that's that baddie guy. And she was like, what? I was like, he was a character like
yeah,
years ago
yeah,
with Tyler and Paige in the
yeah,
garage.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like she was
Cars,
like,
yeah.
what? And I was just like, so there was me thinking
It's the
that
same
he's come
guy.
back as the
Yeah,
baddie and
no.
like some sort of drama's gonna happen with him and Mel, like he's gonna try and like manipulate her or something. And then it
No, so
goes
so so apparently he's been in Neighbours in the early 2000s as
right,
different characters,
bit mental.
twice. Then he came back as D'Amato, which is what we know him as,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's come back as Santo. So, yeah, I mean, he looked older, but a little bit slimmer.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, I mean, with that whole storyline, and obviously the conversation that Mel had with Therese, the way I see it is that she's trying her best to move on. She is attempting to, she's trying to not get in Toadie's way. She's trying to fight her feelings for Toadie. But the way I see it is the universe, as we know, we're always talking about the universe is
Yeah.
saying, no, 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 there's just blocks. And I think the harder she tries, the more there will be a block. And I think she just has to deal with her feelings, whether that's being with Toadie or without Toadie. But there's a lot of processing. But then Toadie also needs a bit of processing as well because he hasn't got over it either.
The problem is, I think it makes it harder because Therese has such an issue with it. She's
Mm.
constantly finding things and being like, oh, the way that she looks at him. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. She was married to him. She's not going to just forget her feelings. If Therese actually just kind of like stopped for a little bit, then actually Mel might find it easier to actually try and move on. But you're constantly reminding her that you're Toadie's wife now.
But the
Like,
issue is, it's her insecurity, and I don't think all of her anger is going towards Mel, but Mel isn't the issue because at the end of the day, Mel could be giving Toadie the eyes, but if Toadie was strong and didn't love Mel and was totally in love with Therese, and that was the woman for him, she'd feel confident. There'd be no thinking about Mel. But the fact is that Toadie is also doing the same thing, and it's these looks, these odd, awkward, I'm hurt looks at each other. That's what's getting her insecure. It's not so much Mel, although she's taking it out on Mel, it's Toadie. And they've had conversations and Toadie reassures because he's the nice guy that he is with the whole, the slippers for the office, what was it, office warming, he called it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
He's very considerate, he's very thoughtful, he's very kind, but then that also means that he also cares about other people's feelings that he shouldn't really, i.e. Mel. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Therese is barking at the wrong person. She needs to be going, Toadie, you really need to go and see a therapist or something about this because y- and if she felt confident about Toadie and his feelings for her, then she wouldn't be going at Mel.
Mm. It's so funny trying to explain that situation to someone that doesn't particularly watch Neighbours all the time. Like I
Mm,
said, my mum was sat next to me.
mm,
You
yeah.
saw the bit where Mel and what was that guy's name? Spur. Yeah, what's his name? New name.
Santo. Santo.
Santo. And Santo were in the waterhole, and Toadie obviously gives us kind of like jealous look over to be like, oh, like
What's that about?
yeah. And my mum was like, why is he getting annoyed? And I went, that's her ex-husband. Like Toadie and Mel used to be married. And she was like, what? I was like, when it finished in 2022, they were together and now he's with Therese. And she was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, mum, you haven't watched it from the start, so you
Don't
don't know about
ask.
the whole drama. I was like, it's too much to explain. And she was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Like, yeah. So she was like, what? Why is he looking at her like that? And having someone who doesn't watch it also mention like query Toadie's judgment and
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
like very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So um we saw go through some sort of meltdown obviously this week over the fact that he was going to lose Trevor, um which was quite sad. I did feel really sorry for him because obviously I feel like we were kind of hating a little bit on Has last time we spoke. I didn't hear you then. Your voice,
Still do.
oh, okay, still do. Yeah, but I like, yeah, I felt sorry
No,
for her.
as a dog owner,
Yeah,
100%, like, this is a sad storyline, and any storyline that involves Trevor, I'm here for it. Even if Haz is involved, like, I'm here for it. Um, it was really sad, and he did a really noble thing of giving Trevor back Bodhi. Um, but at the end of the day, dogs, they have feelings too, and
if they
they do
found
get
their, yeah, their
lovesick
new,
as well. So
yeah, if they found their new person,
yeah,
then they're going to yeah, and it was, yeah, so it's nice that he obviously got Trevor back, and then obviously this leads to
yeah,
him and Mac finally getting together,
yeah.
um, and obviously Holly being okay with it.
Well, question mark. I think
Do we
she
think
still
that
feels
she's
a bit.
okay?
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think she's going to do an Izzy, but I do think that, yeah, and I think this is potentially going to lead to, because Byron's still not over Reese, and I've said it from the beginning when we first saw the first scenes of Holly and Byron working at Lassiter's behind the front desk. I said those two together.
You
So
say that, but I saw Byron with Mac in these scenes, and I'm like, he looks good with Mac. Like, maybe
yeah,
Byron
he
just.
does look good, but at the end of the day, they're coupled up now. Reese isn't there.
Yeah.
They're both single, and they're both, potentially looking for some affection in a rebound sense. Why not?
Mm,
Why not?
yeah,
And that could be a next storyline. Like, we're just in it because we've got broken hearts. It's nothing serious, and then they end up falling for each other. That's a perfect storyline.
yeah.
Never know. So I should write the show.
Say this every time. Every time. She's like, get me on there. So there was something that Carl said. They were talking about this new Irene Rising thing, and Carl was like, I'll have to give my notice to the hospital. And I was like, does that mean he's leaving the hospital? Or does it mean he just needs to notify them because he's going to be working there as well?
No, I'm assuming he's leaving the hospital, but we haven't seen him in the hospital.
I was like, yeah, you like meant to be this doctor that works in the
I
hospital.
just
And
see him pottering around in the garden,
yeah,
or
like,
by the juice bar.
and he was able to go and do his blooming train journey thing that he did with Harold. Like, what is
Great
he doing?
job.
What is he doing? He's not like working at all at the moment.
Oh dear.
Yeah, just interfering in other people's lives.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Susan being away for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Well.
sad. Obviously, we know all the actors have some obviously well, they were both looking for other jobs when it all came to an end. So they've probably had scheduling conflicts and stuff, haven't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
Um, so Chelsea,
Oh
so
yeah.
Tara's sister. Do
He
you think
reminds me of Xanthi's mum,
okay,
like like kind of like that kind of,
yeah.
and the fact that she wrote
Gold
Chelsea
digger?
Robinson, I was like, oh, blimey. I mean, does this fragrance actually smell any good? Like, really?
Wow.
Because she's clearly just trying to marry Paul.
Yeah.
And
And
this, I think, is the setup potentially for down the line long term of Therese getting jealous.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
So I was watching the last two episodes with Dean, my
Yeah.
boyfriend, and he was like, hold on, have they still not got together? So I think it was Mel and Toadie giving each other those looks. And he was like, they still haven't got together. I thought you said they were gonna. And I was like, no, that's what we want, but it's taking a long time.
I love the fact that you
It was
have to
like Therese
explain
and
it to
Paul.
people.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I was
People
like,
who
it's a
don't
soap. It's gonna take a long time. We're working towards it.
uh, so we're gonna so talking of what we are just talking about, Paul.
Yeah.
Um now obviously we're saying about how he's made this truce with Leo because he's like, I don't want to lose another son. Um so
Another
drama
child.
dra- drama is obviously on its
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So I don't personally think that David's actually Paul is going to make up with David.
No, for
And
sure.
obviously, we're not spoiler free here. I
Mhm.
think pretty much know that David is going to die, and there's
That's
going to
what's
be
been going round anyway.
yeah, there's going to be no reconciliation between the two of them, and he's going to go through. We're going to see Paul at it in one of his
Vulnerable. Yeah,
lowest vulnerable stages again,
yeah.
which I think is needed for him. But it's like, who's going to be there? Like, what's going to happen? This is where I'm like, is Therese going to be there for him
I
because
mean,
she's seen him
yeah,
before
I'm
that?
hoping so. Yeah, because like knowing how they were a family unit and how close they were as a family unit, they might have been at each other's throats at times, but the family was still there, very, very like glue, stuck like glue. And she was, she is still quite close to Leo and David, so she's going to feel upset about it as almost like a surrogate son. Um,
Yeah.
she's going to know how much that's going to devastate Paul because family's so important. And yeah, I think it's going to break some hostile ice, really. Um, I'm
So
hoping so anyway.
we've seen obviously in recent episodes, David and Aaron are talking about, their future plans.
Laying it on thick.
My mum had to leave the room. She was like, "I'm really sorry. This is too soft. This is too sappy for me." And I was like, "She was like, not because it's two men." She was like, "It's just too over the top." And I was like, "Mum," I was like, "They're purposely
Doing
doing
in
this
that
because there's
because
gonna
it's one of
be
them. Yeah.
like, yeah." And she was like, "Oh." So obviously, Aaron's making these plans. They want to have a new child, and you just know that there's gonna be some, you know, drama and one of them's going to
Yeah.
die
Yeah.
from rumors. But obviously, we need to discuss actually how we've obviously got to this point. So, Nicolette and her situation with Veronica, which is the jilted ex-lover or ex-wife of this Sasha character that she was very jealous of when she was still dating Kiri. Um, yeah, she's a psycho.
Yeah.
Like, I
She,
saw it
but
more.
she's unhinged.
Yeah,
She should be on antidepressants. She should
yeah.
be in a mental asylum. She should be, being looked after. But instead, she's, just walking around in plain sight, affecting people's lives. But we've had that before, haven't we?
Well,
Psychos running about.
we've got, obviously Nicolette's now told Jane. Jane's confronted her, which I think in hindsight has probably made things worse because she's like, well, actually, no, I'm now going to expose you. And she's pinning pictures of her on cars and obviously can't link it to her because there was no fingerprints. Isla's run away, but magically she's appeared
Yeah,
at the
that's
station.
scary.
Um, yeah, so it's a lot, but obviously I think the final straw is the fact that she's met up with Sasha, and I think she does again. I think this is how the drama starts next week. I think I've seen a clip
Okay.
of them outside Harold's having a coffee together, and Veronica sees them together. So obviously he's now emailed Veronica to be like, you like me and Nicolette never slept together, it was never a thing. You need to like leave her alone. But obviously it's she's not had that face to face closure, so it's obviously kicked it all off, and things
Mm,
are going to take a turn for the worse. What I like about this is, and I think we were talking about it last week, was that not last week, 2 weeks ago, that we haven't seen much of Andrew's character.
mhm,
Now, this stuff that's about to happen is an opportunity for some sort of
mm.
big police case for Andrew to
To
work
step
on
forward,
and do
yeah.
stuff. And actually, I think it's really needed for his character because he's
Mhm.
kind of laying dormant at the moment and not really doing anything.
Yeah, yeah. He's not
So,
he's not he's not done anything, but there hasn't been this kind of high escalation drama. And he's hasn't really got, Wendy's doing her own thing, Sadie's doing her own thing, and it's like, well, what are you doing? I mean, you're not even showing him at the police station. But we have seen the last couple of episodes talking to Nicolette and stuff. So yeah,
I
we
mean,
get
that
drama.
police room, I don't know what police room that was because it wasn't the police room that they usually use. It was some sort of like big room with
Mm,
just random table just in the middle
mm,
of them, three of them sat round. And you know
mm,
the board that they have where they take the photos when you go
mhm.
and have your
Yeah,
photo, a mugshot taken. I
yeah,
was like, this doesn't look like a police room
Yeah.
interview. Like, what's going on here?
Mm.
I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good, but I still think we're missing a little bit of comedy. But obviously, we
To be
saw
fair,
Dave.
to the comedy, we saw Aaron and David with the
Yeah,
whole, cocktail challenge. I absolutely loved that.
sorry
I
guys, I
was
just
like,
need to get comfortable.
this is like, this is the kind of comedy we've been waiting for. It's that almost like where they've got inside jokes, but we're in on it.
Yeah,
Whereas someone who's watching it brand new be like, what's going on here? Or if, someone walks into the room going, what are you watching? you know with Aaron, he takes off the shorts, but then he's got some
yeah,
sparkly shorts underneath. Like, this is the Aaron and Dave, and was actually really nice to see. We see it a lot from Aaron, I think. We see him shine through, but David, at least recently, has just been such a grump.
yeah,
Like,
and yeah, we said that, didn't we? And we're like, so yeah, it was refreshing to see him
yeah,
be like the funny, playful side
yeah.
again. And um, going back to what we were talking about in the last episode, we were saying about the chemistry between
Hmm.
Chloe and Ellie, like they have none. David and Aaron, their chemistry
Completely,
is incredible. For
completely.
for
Straight
two great
men.
actors
Yeah,
that are married to women,
yeah,
like it is like it's incredible, and like
100%.
off to them for the
Yeah,
acting.
exactly.
Like,
Well
yeah,
done.
yeah, um,
Honestly, I agree with you.
yeah.
So I just wanted to point out as a side note, that I think we forgot to mention something on our last episode.
What was that?
So if I remember correctly, so this was almost like 3 to 4 weeks ago,
Mhm.
has mentioned that he spoke to Toadie in his capacity as a lawyer about the whole Trevor drama.
Yeah,
So if we take that as gospel, then it means that Has was actually the first person to use Toadie as their lawyer. And I don't remember anyone else referencing Toadie. Um, so yeah, I mean, do you remember anyone?
no, do you know what? Actually, I think you're right. Has is probably, yeah, yeah. He's the first person. I mean, what were our answers back when we did the predictions?
Um, so this was ages ago. So the fans said that Jane was going to use Toadie.
Huh?
And then we both answered the Kennedys because obviously he's
Yeah.
quite close to Kennedys. But obviously all of us are incorrect, so we're still with the same scores.
Mhm.
I bet you won't have any problems remembering that. Am I right?
No. Mm.
So yeah, so the scores are what? 2 to you, one
Uh,
to the fans, and one to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, you'll
Still,
take whatever as long as you're winning, I'm assuming.
still winning, still winning. So let's get into our top five dramas. So we thought the latest drama that's going to be kicking off next week that we would take a like little trip down memory lane. So we're going to start off at five and obviously whittle our way down to the top spot. So these are like, the drama specials where the whole episode focuses on like that storyline, and they usually involve, unfortunately, some fatalities. We will be spanning from 2014 up to obviously recent days. And then, yeah, over to you, Natasha, please to start our countdown.
So at number 5, we've got the balloon crash. So in 2016, we saw a balloon crash. I can't remember how the girls ended up in a hot air balloon. I think Paige and Piper gifted it to Lauren.
Mhm.
And I'm not entirely sure why Ellie was included, perhaps because she was friends with Paige at the time and she was actually dating Ned. So Steph was meant to be on the ride, but she couldn't make it. So they were waiting for someone to take a spot.
Mhm.
Jacker, don't know if you remember him. He was a biker friend of Steph's, but also an acquaintance of Ned's, probably from being in prison.
Yeah,
He sabotaged the gas canister for the hot air
yeah,
balloon. And we found out just before that Jacker was paid by Julie Quill to blow up the boiler that killed Josh at Lassiter's at the hotel. So it's not surprising that he was doing something like this.
yeah,
Reagan, who is Jacker's estranged wife,
yeah,
she actually dated Ned for a little while whilst he was in prison. And Reagan was worried that Jacka thinks her and Ned are back together. And as Ellie and Ned are together, she wanted Ellie to convince Jacka that she is definitely dating Ned and there's nothing
Yeah.
going on between her and Ned.
Mhm.
So yeah, so Reagan is asked to step into the hot air balloon as Steph's replacement as she turns up at the site. Reagan isn't recognised by anyone. I don't know how. She's got her hood up. She's keeping her head down. Um,
Surely, so side note, surely you check if someone was getting into a hot air balloon, you didn't know
yeah,
who
I
it
don't
was.
know. I think they was in a rush, and the guy that's the instructor, or however you want to call him, he basically goes, "Oh,
Like,
you're the replacement. Come on then."
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't ask me. It's Erinsborough, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so, she isn't recognised, and as the balloon crashes when they are up there, there's a whole
Yeah.
drama about, "Oh my god, the gas," and I think his name's Mike, he's trying to change the gas, and he's like, "Oh no, it's not working, so we're just gonna have to descend with, like, naturally. We can't steer the hot air balloon." So yeah, so the balloon crashes
Yeah.
eventually. Piper and Ellie are unconscious on the ground, and Lauren is sat up against a tree. I think she's broken her leg or something.
Yeah.
Brad, Ben, Carl, and Mark arrive. Sorry, Mark Brennan. Um, then Jack arrives later looking for Paige, and Piper tells him that Paige jumped out before the balloon crashed and points in the direction that she jumped out. This is also when this is also when Carl performs surgery using a
Mhm.
power drill by
Yeah.
drilling into Reagan's head to stop the swelling. I mean, Carl Kennedy, a GP and a surgeon?
I
Like,
know, right?
that doesn't make any sense. It's a lot of studying, that's all I can say. Paige and Jack, this is hot news, hot off the press. Paige and Jack finally sleep together. After all of that, I don't know who I am. And then he finds out he's a priest. And then all that lovely sexual tension that I love between the two of them. They finally sleep together when he finds her taking shelter in a shed nearby. So yeah, I'm all for Paige and Mark Brennan. They're my number one couple, but Jack is definitely in second place as best man for Paige. They always have such great chemistry.
100%. I forgot how much I love Jack and Paige
Yeah.
together. And obviously, ultimately, they get little baby Gabe. Gabe comes along from
Exactly,
that. So,
exactly.
yeah, and yeah, it was great. Okay, so number 4, the tornado. So in 2014, we saw the tornado episode, which turned the Lasters complex into chaos. So there was 3 episodes that was dedicated to this natural event. So first of all, I want to thank this tornado
Mhm.
because it actually helped things move along with Paige and Mark Brennan as they slept together for the first time. You know, she's just slept with Jack, but now she's sleeping with Mark. Anyway, um, there was a whole lot of drama and some like really stupid people. Like Daniel and Amber decide they're going to go out in the storm, of course, you know, to take some pictures, the hippies that they are.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that? So they are both at Lassiter's in the car, which gets like spun and like flipped and stuff in the storm. And all the adrenaline goes obviously to Daniel's head, and he proposes to Amber. Um, and then they find some shelter. I think they go into the garage. But anyway, so Paul is driving around looking for the two of them, and he inadvertently hits something whilst driving, but he doesn't actually know what it is. I mean, could he have hit a person? The big storyline of these episodes, though, was Lou. Now, Lou is being trapped under a beam that's fallen at Harold's from the ceiling. Luckily, though, Susan's there, of course, with him. Can you remember what happened, though, Natasha?
Yeah, I do.
She calls Carl, her super husband who knows how to perform surgery and be a doctor at the same time, um she's in a panic and asking what to do because Lou is dying, he's going blue and not breathing, and Carl walks her through how to perform a tracheotomy on Lou using a biro. I
Yeah.
mean, can you believe it? A biro. Luckily
Mhm.
there was a handy biro there at Harold's,
Yeah.
just perfect
Well,
timing.
she's a teacher, she was gonna do some marking.
I mean, we weren't expecting that. Luckily, obviously, Lou survives, and when the storm comes, he is rushed to hospital. But yes, anyway, drama.
Louis is all good. So at number 3, is the Riverbend. So
Mm,
this is our most recent drama. So this was
yeah.
in 2022. So before we paused to return in 2023. So yeah, the last drama special we got. And this took place at the Riverbend, which was a retreat run by Kiri,
Mhm.
who we later find out is Glenn's daughter. If you
Yeah.
don't remember Glenn, Glenn is Paul's brother. Um,
So much
Family
fun.
tree, family tree. The characters that attended this retreat were Ned, Harlow, Nicolette, Levi, Freya, Glenn, and Aaron. There's been a whole lot of sexual tension between Levi and Freya up until this point. Freya has a boyfriend
Yeah.
called Gareth, but he was on the run. And the reason she came to Erinsborough in the first place was to try and find him.
Mhm.
So anyway, long story short, Gareth follows them to this retreat, and whilst Levi was on a walk around the bushland, Gareth held him at gunpoint.
Mhm.
Levi rushed at him and to disarm him.
Yeah.
I don't think he was successful. He Levi ran off into the bushes, and Gareth did actually fire a few shots at him. Levi gets shot in the arm, but as he falls, he knocks himself out on a rock. It always happens that way, knocking themselves out with a rock.
Oh no,
Um,
I knocked myself out.
so yeah, so then Gareth and Freya end up crossing paths, and Gareth forces her onto the minibus, demanding her to drive. He's pointing the gun at her, obviously. So yeah,
Yeah.
David and Amy are on their way to the Riverbend to see their other halves, and they pulled over temporarily. They see the minibus whiz past, and they see Freya driving, which confuses them because why would she be driving the minibus? She wouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, they go after the minibus, and then they see it crash into a tree. Aaron was actually secretly on the minibus and was giving Freya looks at this point,
Oh,
saying,
yes,
shh,
I
shh,
remember. Yes, I
don't say
remember.
anything.
Yeah.
So Aaron's there on the road, lying unconscious.
Yeah.
David tells Amy to take care of Aaron, whilst David and Freya pull Gareth out of the car, sorry, the minibus,
Yeah.
to check him over. And Gareth is gasping for air. So David has an OPA in his hand, which is essentially a device that will help clear the airway, because obviously that's his airway at the moment is being constricted.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Yes.
So yeah, so Freya and David both look at each other, and they make the decision just from those looks not to use the OPA on him, which inevitably means Gareth dies. I remember being shocked by this at the time, not just because David was a doctor, but also because up until this point he was the moral, upstanding guy. He
Mhm.
wasn't the kind of person like Paul who would Paul. This is kind of up Paul's street, really. So yeah, I was a bit shocked by that. But he is Paul's son. It's clearly in the DNA.
Hadn't David made the decision to do that based on the fact that Gareth had beaten Aaron into basically near death? And he was like, this is payback for beating my husband up.
Maybe something like that, but
Yeah, I
ultimately
think
it's still
that's
a
what it was.
decision
No, 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 of course. Yeah,
that
yeah, you wouldn't
he
not
shouldn't
do
have
that.
made. At the end of the day, he made a Hippocratic oath, and he makes out that he's this moral guy, but yet he allowed someone to die. So yeah, so they both make a pact to keep the secret and not tell anyone. And
Yeah,
they do this for some time, but then obviously, inevitably, it catches up with them, and they do get into trouble for it.
yeah. Oh dear. So number two is Scarlet. Who remembers Scarlet? Now, this is in 2019, so I again still watching old episodes, being really slow with them. So in 2019, we see Ned being sucked in by crazy Scarlet. So Scarlet has planned for like a little country getaway. So there's been quite a few little bits prior to this, but
Mhm.
she plans a little getaway for the two of them. And as it's Halloween, she said, "Oh, let's dress up in fancy dress or whatever," and she brings an outfit for Ned to wear. So Ned puts on this like Frankenstein costume, which is like a suit with the little things, rods in
Mhm.
his neck or whatever. And then Scarlet appears in a wedding dress. Now, obviously, Ned starts to look a bit worried because he's like, "Well, you're wearing a wedding dress. You're meant to be Frankenstein's bride, but actually, you just look like a normal bride." Um, he's like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll just go with it. So they head off into this maze and obviously wind around and eventually get to this little table in the middle with like table and chairs and like champagne and stuff. And they're talking, and Scarlett mentions something like when we get married. And obviously, of course, Ned is completely freaked out by this. He's like, oh, hang on a minute. We've only just started really kind of seeing each other. What do you mean when we get married?
Mhm.
And she obviously starts declaring her love for him. And he's like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? She then picks up a knife from the table and actually stabs him in the stomach. Um, and he goes off bleeding off around the maze or whatever. And now at this point, we know that Yashvi and B have actually become increasingly worried about Ned and have actually found directions to the hotel and are on their way there. So Yashvi and B enter the maze to try and like find Scarlet. And Scarlet actually ends up stabbing Yashvi as well. She stabs her in the leg, I believe. B finds Ned lying on the floor against a tree, and kind of like tries to keep him alive. And eventually, obviously, the paramedics are called and they come. Yeah, and as I said previously, I've just watched these episodes. And I just forgot like how tense it was. I was like, oh my God, are they gonna find him? Like, is he gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen? Yeah, loved it. And then actually going a year later,
Mhm.
she's actually released from the psychiatric ward or whatever, and she actually comes back for Ned again after she tracks him down on this Fandangle website. He's
Oh
taking pictures
yeah,
of his body um
Fandangle.
to make
He's
money
a
so
Fandangle.
to put on this exhibition that he's doing. So she manages to convince him to do a portrait for her new fiance or whatever. And obviously it's not really, it's a ploy obviously to get back to Ned basically. And he's like, well, I have to do this because I can't tell Yashvi that I've I think does he records a video, like a stripping video, and she's using it as leverage to be like, well, if you don't do this portrait, I'm going to show Yashvi this video. um and then she shows up at the exhibition and is like basically saying to everybody that actually no, he's the one that's stalking her. And it turns out he chases her. They go back into the maze. She knocks him over the head with this big rock, and this big story develops that um, she's actually framing Ned for her murder. She's faked her own death, basically, and she's hiding away in the hive, which is where Ned's doing all his artwork. Of course, eventually, B and Levi start and Yashvi all realize that actually no, this can't be true. Ned can't have killed her. And obviously all comes out. And to entice her out, Yashvi and Ned set up a fake wedding.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and Scarlett obviously turns up to try and stop the wedding, and she has acid in her hand, and she obviously goes to throw it at Yashvi, and Levi knocks it out of her hand. It actually goes all over her face. She burns her
Mhm.
face and ends up in hospital. And then it all comes out about what she was doing, and actually about her childhood trauma and her parents dying in
Mm.
a car crash was actually her fault. Yeah, twisted, twisted, twisted,
Yeah,
twisted.
I find those ones really interesting. The crazy characters, and then finding out about their childhood and their trauma, like really interesting. And actually, I would say for me, she's probably like the top two psycho
Hmm.
in Neighbours, and I think
And you're going to talk about the
the
next
next one's number one for sure.
like.
Definitely they're up there. Similar sorts of ploys, and actually the way that their dramas ended were almost self-inflicted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So anyway, shall I go on to the last one, the top
yeah.
spot?
Number one. Let's
So
talk
number
about
one, this is
that.
our favourite for sure. So number one is the island.
Yeah,
So yeah, these were the extra episodes, aired late at night, that ran for a week in 2020, and were titled Endgame. So we had episodes during the day on Ramsey Street, and then episodes in the evening, on the island. So that was 10 episodes we got that week, which was yeah, special treat that.
love
Um,
that. Being like, need to watch day one, need to watch the evening one. Oh, like just
yeah,
wanting
it
to
was
know what happened next.
really good, exactly. So yeah, so this is going to be a pretty big one to finish on.
Yeah,
There's just so much drama in this. They really maxed out on this one. So Pierce had bought an island. and took everyone away for a glamping trip.
Yeah.
So in attendance, it was Chloe, Ellie, Asta, Ellie's daughter, B, Finn, Carl, and Roxy. And Harlow and Hendrix followed behind them in secret. So no one actually knew they were on the island until they were seen. Well, I
Yeah.
think it was Harlow first.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So the lead up to this was that Finn was starting to get his memory back, and he was having all sorts of evil thoughts about B. He was dating B at the time, but he also thought he was falling in love with Ellie, so wanted to get rid of B so he could be with Ellie.
Yeah.
He thought that B was in the way of the two of them getting together.
Yeah.
So Finn finds his opportunity early on in the trip to take Bee on a walk of the surrounding areas and pushes her into a mine shaft. Just conveniently, there's a mine shaft there, a hole in the ground, to be left for dead.
Yeah.
Harlow, this is later on, Harlow also gets kicked into the mine shaft when she discovers Bee is in there. Harlow breaks her leg, so is unable to do
I don't
much.
think she gets kicked in there. I
Some
think she no,
she
she
fall in
finds
there.
no, she finds B in there and she goes down to help
Oh,
her.
that's it.
She
Yeah.
realizes that she can't get back out
And then
again.
I think she can't get out.
Yeah.
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 Um, so I think she breaks her leg, I think, in there. And then later on Finn throws like a snake down there, venomous snake. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're trying to like fend off the snake, and yeah,
Yeah.
no, very scary times. Um, and then we also see, which is is it I think it was in the end game part of it, but she obviously wasn't on the island. We
Mm.
see Prue, who's Harlow's mother,
Yeah.
also was engaged to Gary.
Yeah.
Um, we basically see her being blown up in her car, as the wedding gift had a bomb in it, and that literally just went off, and all we see is like blown into smithereens the car.
Mm.
Quite shocking, really. I was gobsmacked when I saw it. But then we also see the most shocking thing of the entire saga for me anyway. We see Gary stumble across B and Harlow down in the mine shaft. And before he can help, Finn attacks him with a bow and arrow. I just remember that scene of seeing Gary's face like as he struck with the arrow. Yeah, my God. I watch those scenes now and I get the shivers. Like even now, I've watched it a few times now, and it's just. Ugh.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ellie also gets chucked in the mine shaft. She goes off on a wander and sees Gary's body, and yeah, she gets chucked in there. But I'm not sure there's any space left in this mine shaft because it looked pretty tight to begin with. I'm not sure how they all fit in there. So yeah, at this point, with Ellie gone in the mine shaft,
Yeah.
he kidnaps Asta and
Yeah.
drives away from the island, but not after setting the island alight. So the bush is really hot, just light a match, and he starts a fire on the island,
Yeah.
leaving everyone else to die.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah. So after that week's episode's aired, the week after, which is linked to all of this, we
Yeah.
see Finn kidnapping Susan. So he's got Asta in the car, but he's kidnapped Susan, taking her to a cabin in the mountains. It's all really creepy
She
stuff.
doesn't realise it's a kidnap though, does she? Because she willingly
No,
got
I think he lures her out with the fact that, oh, Asta, needs, I can't remember, trying to find Ellie
no,
maybe,
he says,
or
let's go and find B. B's in the cabin in the woods. We need to go and find her." And then
something like
when
that.
she's in
Yeah,
the car, she realizes because she
that is
hears
a,
Asta crying in the back, and she's like, "Why have you got
yeah,
Asta?" Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So yeah. So he's just kind of pretending all along,
Yeah.
until he gets her to the cabin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feared for Susan's life. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing to my mother? Like
Mm.
seriously.
Mhm.
So anyway, back on the island, they all end up being rescued, and Ellie works out where Finn has taken Susan and Asta. So Finn was outside this cabin, digging a grave for Susan. All very creepy. He plans to kill
Yeah.
her. Ellie confronts Finn as he's digging, but he slips. So it's very muddy, bit of water there. He slips, and guess what? Again, similar thing to the river bend. He knocks his head on a rock. That's the
And
way to do it.
he suddenly becomes paralyzed again.
Yes. So yeah. So no, he's not lying face down, is he?
No, he's up.
That's what
He's
that's what
up.
happened. So
Yeah,
there's I think there's so it's
water.
questionable whether Ellie was involved or not
No,
because there was a
I think
hose.
yeah,
Wasn't there a hose and she just left it running, and that's as he's
he
like, he can't
slipped.
move, the
Yeah,
water rises and he
yeah,
ends up slowly
yeah,
drowning.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's so yeah, so yeah, yeah, that's questionable, but that's also why she gets into trouble because there's a question mark over what was her involvement.
Mm,
Um, but to be honest, whether or not she's guilty of killing him, she
mm,
has let him die,
yeah,
so didn't call for any help.
no,
So this does whether she's guilty or not does come to bite her later on. And just as a side note, I mean, I know that everyone knows how much I don't like Ellie. Um, but I think the only thing for me was this scene, like, I felt like she redeemed herself. I remember watching it thinking, "Good on you." Like, he's made you this pathetic, wet mess, like,
yeah,
you know, and finally you're taking a stand against this.
yeah.
And yes, it's not very moral, I guess, but ultimately all the pain and the suffering he's caused her and her family, I mean, it's a debate anyway, but
Yeah,
I think it was really admirable of her to have done that, and I thought for once, I thought, you're a strong woman. I can back that.
yeah,
Well done, Ellie."
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, this was my favourite of all of the drama specials that we've had. They just went all out on it.
Mm,
Also, like I mentioned before, there's just something about Finn. I think it's really interesting when we get to know, the crazy side of someone, but we also
yeah.
understand their trauma, we understand their background, and we definitely got that. We definitely got that with Scarlett a little bit, but we got that more with Finn. I mean, it still has you thinking now because Rob Mills is just so good at being evil. You
Mm.
actually question now, could they bring him back from the dead? Like, will there be any future episodes? I mean, it's happened before in other soaps, and
I mean, he was shown.
Harold's come back from the dead. So
Yeah, and he was shown at the end of when they were finishing, weren't they? Susan talking in a monologue thing about, people that can't be helped, and he's shown, and I'm like, oh, he would just be so good. Would literally
yeah,
just be so
he's someone that you love to hate. Like,
mm,
Rob Mills is so good at being Finn. And it's just this whole not really knowing where you're at with him, flipping between, no, he's a nice, sweet guy, to, hold on, like, where's this evil streak come from? Very, very well played. Loved it.
it would be a pretty awesome storyline though, wouldn't it, if Finn was to come back from the dead? Like
Def-
I did, I loved Endgame so much, and to be honest, it was the after scenes for me, seeing Kyle having to tell Sheila that
yeah,
Gary died on the island.
yeah,
It literally broke my heart
yeah.
watching
That
those
was a
scenes.
really good whole
But
thing.
yeah, so like amazing. It was so good. I mean, wow. That was an amazing one to end on. I think we have pretty much covered all of it, haven't we?
Yeah,
Um, I mean, this has really, really prepared us for, some high level drama next week, and we're going to see what's going to happen and that rumored death because someone's not coming home according to the trailer. Is it David or is it someone else?
maybe they're feeding it to us as David. Maybe it's Aaron.
Oh, don't say that.
We don't know. We've read that it's David, but
No, but no offense, I'd much prefer Matty to stay.
well, definitely. Well, David's character's been annoying me since they returned, but Aaron hasn't, and Aaron's never annoyed me, so yeah,
Yeah.
just yeah. Anyway, can't wait for that. Can't wait for that next week. We've been blabbing for far too long now.
Like just ranting, just absolutely ranting, haven't we? Anyway, so we will not keep you any longer, guys. Yeah, thank you again for joining us for another episode, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.